This video is brought to you by PrizePicks. Is Shedeur Sanders a NFL quarterback is a question that a lot of people are asking in the run-up to this season. I've given my thoughts about it. I think Shedeur can play in the NFL. I think it's going to take a little while for him to get there, much longer than a lot of his supporters want it to take. I think everybody kind of wants it to happen right now. In my personal opinion, I think there's some holes in his game that are going to take a long time to get over. But there's certainly enough there to demonstrate that he can eventually play in the NFL. You know, I mean, Geno Smith comp, I think that's fair for him, right? Somebody who might take a little while to get to where he needs to get to. But once he gets there, he's going to be capable of playing at a decent level for your football team. But the timeline is just kind of unpredictable. And that's the issue with a lot of young quarterbacks, right? This is a difficult position to play. This is a difficult position at a difficult level of competition to play. And not everybody's timeline is going to match up with your favorite teams. You know, some guys are going to be good right away and then be worse later in their career, a la Deshaun Watson. Some guys are going to be bad early on and get better later on. Some guys will never be good. Some guys will be all right at the beginning and then terrible. You know what I mean? The timelines for quarterbacks can be unpredictable, and it's an unpredictable position. But what I want to do today is react to a video from a channel that I appreciate a ton of, which is called Thinking Football. I think they do great breakdowns, you know, especially like highly stylized edited breakdowns. I think they do really an interesting kind of work over there at Thinking Football. I want to react to their video about Shedeur Sanders and kind of give my 2 cents on their analysis of it as somebody who has also watched, you know, all of Shedeur's games so far as a professional and watched his journey as a player so far. So that's what we're going to get into. First, I got to thank my sponsor, PrizePicks. PrizePicks is a fun way to earn cash while you watch your favorite teams. No complex betting rules. Just pick more or less on a few player stats and lock in your lineup. Here are my picks for this upcoming season, AFC North edition. Jimmy Bernard, I have less than 475. This has to do with volume available in Pittsburgh's offense. Quincy Judkins, I have over 975. Browns improved line. I think the run game is going to be better with it. Chase Brown, under 900 yards. Joe Burrow equals less rushing yards usually for the Bengals offense. Mark Andrews, more than 475 yards. Lamar's going to need a safety blanket. Check to see if PrizePicks is available in your state. You could follow me on the app at Quinn_C to see all my lineups. Download the PrizePicks app today. Play $5 and get $50 in lineup to download the app using the link in the description.
Hyped 5th round pick we've ever seen, Shedeur Sanders didn't exactly live up to the lofty expectations that were set upon him. He flashed the same aggression and improv plays shown from college, but the NFL is all about timing and precision. And here the game remains wildly off the mark. Like we always do in our rookie reports, let's build a complete picture, starting with the good stuff. One upgrade Shedeur brought to the offense was a spark for the big play. Aggressive downfield, he's particularly adept at attacking the post, punishing defenses when the opportunity arose. On 3rd and long, the Bears threatened the heavy blitz against the porous Browns line, but only send 5. The key read here by Shedeur is the bailing free safety. He doesn't hold the post, working hard to get over the top of the 2 receivers. But this leaves a dropping linebacker covering Isaiah Bond to the post. The ball's up to the sky and out in rhythm, dropped beautifully in the bucket to flip the field. Here's more aggression when the defense opens the post, this time for a score. The Titans are playing man, but try to pass off the first post in the double post concept, allowing the slot to drop into the window for the dig route. But Judy isn't working middle, but going skinny to the post. Seeing the free safety track the first post, Shedeur is lightning to the second, hitting Judy in stride, and he's off to the races.
Let's look at that route by Judy real quick, because that's just a fire. Like, look at the release that Judy got. This is why I can't give up on Jerry Jeudy right now, right? Like, I feel like a lot of people want to give up on him, but watch at the bottom of your screen, Jerry Jeudy here, and look at this release he gets on this corner to get
seeing the free safety track the first post.
Just hands out, and then look at the acceleration.
Lightning. Second,
flat hips, and then to the ball, and he could just be more consistent. Like, he's such a
and he's off to the races
threat for this team.
High stepping the last attempt for the 60-yard score. And back against the Bears, we've got the best of the bunch. The motion confirms man coverage. So when 2 backers come on the blitz, The math tells us it's got to be cover 0, again, leaving the post open. Shedeur's eyes spot that safety rotation, this time to become a man defender, and immediately launches to the post, throwing a rainbow as he gets hit. It's thrown right between the hashes, and Bond meets it in stride for a gain of 47. A trait we love in signal callers.
I think a prospect like Shedeur is difficult to discuss because it's not one or the other with Shedeur, right? Like, I think there's two extremes that people want to live in with a dude like him. You can watch the highlights and you can see that on your For You page and you'll think Shedeur's like a franchise level quarterback. You know what I mean? Like, it's right there when you see the highlights. But then you'll see a cut up of his lowlights and you'll be like, what is this dude doing on the football field? And the fact is that both of those sides of the story are true. The highlights that Shedeur is able to provide are a legitimate part to his game. The lowlights, though, are certainly there, and it's not just something you can write off because he didn't have practice time or he didn't have reps with the ones. Like, they're deeper. The problems are deeper than that, right? Like, certainly not a great offensive line, not a great mix of wide receivers around him, and some of that stuff will get better for him this year. But I don't think if you take away all of that, you're only getting the highlights. I think the lowlights exist for reasons that are more about Shedeur than about the surroundings that Shedeur has. Doesn't mean he's going to be completely awful. It doesn't mean that he's going to be amazing, as the highlights would tell you, right? I think the story is somewhere in between with Shedeur. I think Shedeur is somebody who, if he gets enough time in the league, maybe a couple opportunities after his rookie deal, there can be some future there for him. A Geno Smith-like path for him eventually. I do think he needs to show some improvement in some very key areas, especially when it comes to his ability to go through progressions and the snappiness of it, I think, has been a problem for him. Also, like, recognizing game situations and then playing those game situations appropriately. Another area of his game that I find to be a little lacking. Certainly like things that more time, more reps might be able to fix, but you got to get those reps. You got to get that time in the NFL, and it's not easy to get. It's not guaranteed to happen for you. So that's kind of the difficult part and why a quarterback play is just so erratic sometimes, you know what I mean? But let's continue.
Ability to throw with touch, and Shedeur flashed strong here, if a little too eager to use this tool. Backed up, the Browns call a boot left flood concept, and Shedeur drops it over the shoulder for a chunk gain. He's quick to spot Cedric Tillman when on the route, and with no help over the top, he can display the touch, finding him for the catch and run. Here's a clever play on the goal line, running a rub concept out of Jumbo 13 personnel. Now, arguably, this is the incorrect read, with Fannin breaking wide open, but with the corner staying so flat, he eliminates himself from the play and allows the out route to open. But it does need an excellent throw to make it, and Shedeur floats it to the sideline to where only his man can get it.
This is the stuff I mean when I'm like, Shedeur needs to improve. And I'm sure we'll see more examples of it in this video, right? My concern with Shedeur as a prospect, right, just not even considering for the Cleveland Browns, it's like a prospect for his overall career. He does not have the tools to live dangerously, right? Like Cam Ward, I'm not a big fan of Cam Ward as a prospect for the same thing, right? But what Cam Ward does have that could make his life easier is he has the tools to live dangerously. Cam Ward can fit a ball into a tight window because he has unique arm talent. He can throw the ball faster, harder, from different launch angles, which makes him a lot more, gives him a lot more margin of error, right? It's why the NFL considered him a much better prospect than somebody like Shedeur. Shedeur does not have those tools to live dangerously. He doesn't have bad tools, but he doesn't have the tools to live dangerously, which means he needs to be on time. He needs to make his life as easy as possible with his mind so that he doesn't have to rely on his body to make plays for him. Because if he relies on his body to make plays for him at the NFL level, there's going to be a ceiling to his play. So he needs to win with his mind, and his mind is not where he wins a lot. Like, he wins a lot. He wins when he does with physical, right? And he's just not physically talented enough to consistently win at the level that you need a quarterback to win. And like, if he's going to rely on his physical talent, then there's always going to be this wild up and downness to his play. He needs to make his life easier. And a play like this is a good example of it because, yes, he completed the throw. It was a great throw, and I'm not upset at him. But you tell me right now, what throw's easier to make? You tell me right now, what requires less of him physically to be successful? You know, you watch Drew Brees play. You watch Tom Brady play. You watch the guys who became great despite not having physical traits, right? Because everybody loves to yell whenever I'm critical or I bring this up that, you know, other players have made it despite not having the biggest physical traits. And that's true. Tons of guys, Joe Montana, have made it without having elite physical traits. It's not a necessary thing to be a good quarterback. But what those quarterbacks have in common here is that they would have thrown that ball to Harold Fanner. You know what I mean? Tom Brady's not making the most difficult throw ever. Tom Brady's always making the easiest possible way to be successful. And that's how Tom Brady got successful. It's a cerebral thing, right? My issue with Shedeur is that he does not seem to be great at identifying the easiest path for him to be successful as a quarterback, which means that he ends up relying a lot on his physical ability as a quarterback. And he has decent physical ability, but he can't live dangerously at the NFL level, right? Like somebody like Baker Mayfield, who I would say has a little bit more physical talent than Shedeur. Like the arm strength is certainly a lot better than Shedeur. The accuracy, Shedeur is a little bit better than Baker at, but Baker couldn't live off his physical tools, and he was the number 1 overall pick. And he had a very strong arm. You know what I mean? Shedeur is setting himself up to try to live off his physical tools, and I don't know if that's going to be enough to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. But let's continue.
Himself from the play and allows the out route to open, but it does need an excellent throw to make it, and Shedeur floats it to the sideline to where only his man can get it. And in inclement weather and under pressure, this is a hell of a bucket drop. The NFL loves this post-wheel concept as a way to attack quarters, but it's also excellent against cover 1, with real routes real tricky to track in man. The stunt opens a clean shot, but Shedeur delivers a dime, leading Harold Fannin to green grass. It won't be the last time you see him in this video. There have also been some flashes of combining the two, along with reading the defense to find these aggressive first read throws. The reading still needs to come a long way, but these are some nice tosses. The Steelers show 5, but rush 4, dropping into Tampa 2. And with the hook defender shallow for the out route, there's a window to Judy on the dig. Shedeur winds up at the cut, and the gap is found for a first down. That's good stuff. This time, the Steelers zone gets caught playing static, and with some good protection in the pocket for once, there's a crosser for Sanders to find. It's more nice touch, and Bond hauls in the 20-yard gain. And versus the Niners, the Browns come back to the post-wheel concept, perfectly timed into the quarter's defense. The rhythm is good, if the location a little suspect, but Harold Fannin to the rescue as he hauls in the underthrow, then bullies his way in for the score. Another skill Shedeur displayed was the ability to scramble and extend, and boy did he need it playing behind this line. The build.
I'm just watching some of these clips. Like KT Levinston and Corn Lucas play left tackle and right tackle for this team. And oh my God, man. It was so bad. It really was. I mean, like the whole year was so bad. Like it didn't get good for anybody. And I think that's part of what the Browns are trying to do this year is like, hey, the offensive line was such a shit show last year that we couldn't get any kind of evaluation on anybody. So maybe this year is about just getting an evaluation on these guys. You know what I mean? I talked about it being a calibration year for this team. because like, man, some of these pressures they gave up were ridiculous. Like, it's
Completely
nuts.
blanket the third down look with the two-man coverage, and pressure quickly crumbles the line, leaving Shedeur dead for rights. But he somehow ducks under the definite sack, dodges the next man, then takes off for the first. Late against Tennessee, Shedeur has to beat the whole defense for a score. Nothing's open, so he weaves in and out the pocket, sending two rushers colliding, and then, with the coverage turning their back, takes off for the line, cutting inside one to find 6 points. And in his first game,
And I think everybody's got to give him credit for how much better of an athlete he was than like what people thought he was going to be coming in, especially like people who weren't the biggest fans of Shedeur, right? I was worried about that because like his tape versus Nebraska in college was very concerning as far as like projecting his athletic ability to the NFL level. But this is an area of Shedeur's game where I'm like, oh no, I was wrong about that. Like he's clearly athletic enough to play quarterback at the next level. I think that's certainly somewhere where there's undeniable proof that like he's was able to figure it out. Is he athletic enough to get away with some of the stuff that he likes to do in the pocket? Certainly not, but there's enough athleticism there to where he's not just going to be a statue or a liability there the way some people thought that could be the case. Because some of the tape in Colorado he looked pretty slow, you know what I mean? But he certainly proved people wrong there, so you got to give him credit where credit's due.
against the Raiders, this extension sparked a big play. The Raiders are quick to get pressure, but Shedeur extends right, and seeing Bond cook his man, sends this one to the heavens while getting lit up, getting this ball all the way to the one.
This play right here to Isaiah Bond, this is like, if you ask me the trait about Shedeur that gets me excited about him, potentially, like if he does end up exceeding expectations and not only being a starting level quarterback, but like a franchise level quarterback, what is the skill that can get him there? It's his ability to not predict, but to see post-snap angles as a player. So what I mean by that is this.
Extension
right?
sparked a big play.
We're going to
Raiders
see
are quick
him
to get pressure, but Shedeur extends right.
We're going to see him when he extends here. He doesn't just throw this to Isaiah Bond. He understands the spacing here of the Raiders players, and he understands where to throw this ball with anticipation on a scramble drill to him, which is a unique skill, right? Like this isn't just a normal, oh shit, scramble ball. This is like, okay, he really understood what the angles were and how to throw somebody into a successful position in a scramble drill, right?
And seeing Bond cook his man, sends this one to the heavens while getting lit up, getting this ball all the way to the one.
That's the part of his game that I'm like, okay, if we can just get the basics to a point to where he can survive, and then we can get to that, then you can see the case for him being somebody who could be a playmaker at this level. The issue has been the pace of progress on some of that other stuff. It just hasn't been what you wanted it to be so far. Well, which is, maybe it's just part of him being young. Maybe it's the situation he was in last year, but we'll see what happens this season. You know what I mean? But there is that element to his game that I do really like about him. And I think like somebody like not Denzel Bond, that's crazy, but Denzel Boston, I wonder how much having a Denzel Boston for him is going to help him, because I could see it being someone that he could be really successful with, given that he can give him 50-50 balls, downfield throws. I do wonder if that would be too much of a safety blanket for him, and then he starts like lean on it too much. It becomes a crutch on the offense for him. Instead of like going through the plays and like progressing through, he's just trying to throw that thing to Denzel Boston. That might not be the best thing for him. But I do think having Denzel will be intriguing at the very least when Shedeur is out there, especially. All right, so they covered the positives in Shedeur's game. Now let's jump to the negatives here.
Covered the flashes. Now the gray skies start to roll in. First, there's a problem with processing speed. The pro level is exponentially faster than college, And the greats at the position stand out not because of their physical traits, but their mental ones. In a game that stresses timing, Shedeur just isn't processing fast enough to be a consistent threat, and languishes into the dangerously slow category, putting himself and the ball at risk.
So this is kind of what we talked about earlier, right? The great quarterbacks, especially the ones who win without being physically great, right? Like, not the Josh Allens of the world, but the little guys, right? The Drew Brees, the more cerebral based quarterbacks. It's my most underrated trait for a quarterback, the most elite skill that I think it's necessary for high level quarterbacks to have is mental discipline. Right. If you look at all the best quarterbacks, all the overachievers from a physical talent standpoint, what they all have in common is elite mental discipline. These are people who are very sharp in how they go through things, very detailed in how they go through things. They don't care if it's a little boring. They don't care if the work's tedious or repetitive or monotonous. They can just get through it at a high level, right? Because the number one thing you need your quarterback to be, obviously there's a threshold in the NFL of arm talent that you need to reach. Obviously there's a threshold of athletic ability that you need to reach, a threshold of height that you need to reach, a threshold of, physical skill that you need to reach to be able to physically do all the things that people want to do mentally, right? But what separates the good quarterbacks, the great quarterbacks from the mediocre and the bench warmers is mental discipline, right? Guys who have that natural gift of discipline, right? Those are the guys who tend to be successful if they can pair that with high-level processing and quick processing. When I watch Shedeur play, I don't see somebody who's very disciplined in their approach. I see somebody who has a very undisciplined approach, quite frankly. Somebody who will abandon a design play, a design beater on a third down multiple times to go and try a one-on-one go ball on the offside of the field. Somebody who loses focus on screens at times, loses focus when asked to do monotonous things, when asked to do things that are a little bit boring. Take what the defense gives you. This is when you see some of the worst stuff mentally from Shedeur, is when they're asking for the most mental discipline from him. And that's the biggest issue I have with him as a quarterback prospect. Can Shedeur get better as a processor? Sure. Everybody, given enough time, given enough information, can get better at that. How much better you can get at it, I don't know, but you can improve that, right? You can get faster at identifying things and processing things. But if you're not processing things and identifying things within the structure of an offense, within the discipline framework for a quarterback, then it's not going to be very useful. Like Jameis Winston, I think, is a great example. Because if you've ever talked X's and O's with Jameis Winston, or if you've ever talked to anybody who's talked X's and O's with Jameis Winston, they will tell you that boy is a genius. He is a savant when it comes to football and X's and O's. Like, Jameis is very impressive. He's always been that way since he was 18 years old at Florida State. And that's why he was able to do so much so well early in his college career, and why Jameis was the number one overall pick, because he is savant-like level smart. And then you look at the physical tools, and Jameis had all the physical tools you needed to be successful. So all these GMs, they looked around and they said, hey, Jameis has all these physical tools. He's whip smart when it comes to football and identifying football concepts almost at a savant-like level. There's no way that guy's not going to be good. But the one thing they overlooked with Jameis Winston is that he's not the most mentally disciplined guy in the world, right? That's been a through line throughout Jameis Winston's career. It's almost a meme at this point. Jameis Winston has always demonstrated throughout his entire football career that he's not the most disciplined guy. And right now that works for him as a backup quarterback, and it'll work for him in media. But early in his playing career, where he was carrying the burden of being the number one overall pick, that did not work for him. And that's why Jameis Winston isn't one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL right now, why he is a third-string quarterback in the league right now, because he never developed that mental discipline. You can have the smarts, you can identify things quickly, you can process fast, have the size, the athletic ability, but if you don't have the mental discipline to be able to just get through the grind of playing the quarterback position, which it is a grind. It's not fun. But the mental discipline to want to work on every detail of those monotonous things, the mental discipline to take what the defense is giving you and work through these progressions and trust what you're doing, the work that you're doing during the week and all of that, that's what would make Shedeur a much better quarterback.
These crossing concepts, you've really got to be throwing the ball as the receiver snaps his route cross-field. NFL defenders are way too fast and way too quick to pick up the route, and late throws just won't work. He waits to see Harold Fannin break before he lets it go, and this allows the defender who was beaten to catch up and smother the catch point. However, the throw isn't on line either, and Fannin can't stretch any further for the wayward ball. Here's the same thing against the Bengals. He's waiting to confirm the route comes open, not throwing at the snap. And this time, it lets the safety into the play for a shot at his receiver. This one's high and offline, and that luckily saves his receiver from a big hit. Again, against the Bengals, he's struggling with throwing these intermediate routes with anticipation. Running the dig off the play action, Jeudy gets depth to allow for the touch ball over the underneath level.
That's a good route by
Shedeur
Jeudy.
has to wait to see it come open, and this allows pressure to get home and hit him on the release. And he's lucky this tumble's safe. One thing you really can't do in the pros is be late to the flat. NFL defenders are just too damn fast. It's a double move Hank concept here, with curls and flats to stretch the coverage. And the doubles do open space for the curls. However, Shedeur doesn't like it and works to the flat. He then stares down the flat before releasing, allowing Nick Herbig to see this easily and break for the sure pick six. But he leaves the ball behind, and he'll be seeing that one in his nightmares for a long-ass time. And here, he breaks a cardinal sin of quarterbacking, throwing hitches at off corners. When a boundary corner is sitting 7 yards off his man in the NFL, the 5-yard hitch is simply off limits. Corners are far too fast and instinctual, and they'll jump these easily. Somehow, this isn't caught, and I guess that's why bro plays defense. The troubles extend beyond just the clock speed. His reading of the concept can be really poor, matched with erratic reading through the progression. Here's a nice design that builds off the post wheel play we've been showing, where the Browns use a stack motion to create speed for the wheel, and the post runner turns their route into a sail route, taking advantage of the space created. It's a wide open throw into the quarter's defense, but Shedeur never pulls the trigger, instead scrambling right and overthrowing the checkdown. Bills, the Browns call a dagger concept a perfect way to attack the Bills' cover 2. Jeudy comes streaking open between the levels, and Shedeur has a clean look at it, but again, doesn't pull the trigger. He puts his head down and scrambles when the pocket gets shifted, caught by a tap tackle to keep the gain to a minimum. And on this boot concept, he misses a wide open crosser. It's hard to work out why he doesn't throw this, and in a league dominated by boot action heavy offensive coordinators, they aren't going to want to see this on film. Everyone misses reads, that's a given, but Shedeur's occur too frequently, and that's because of a general skittishness with reading the progression. His eyes don't flow through downfield reads, and this causes him to be late on throws. Look how his eyes don't stay on the follow concept here, even though he gets the perfect break, checking the solo side before getting back to it. This leaves him late to it, and then he throws this at changeup speed, and the backer can just close and dislodge the ball.
Let's go back to that. I think that's an important
Occur too frequently,
observation there.
And that's because of a general skittishness with reading the progression. His eyes don't flow through downfield reads, and this causes him to be late on throws. Look how his eyes don't stay on the follow concept here, even though he gets the perfect break, checking the solo side before getting back to it.
This is something we've talked about in his film breakdowns before, right? Him checking solo side before just going through what the play is supposed to go through. And I think it's because he be big play hunting, right? That's my guess. Admittedly, it's a guess, right? But when you watch Shedeur play, there is an element of his game that reminds me of watching people play Madden, which is the constant big play hunting instead of just working through the play. And that kind of explains why there are these two extremes to Shedeur's game, right? Where you'll see the highlights and you'll be, oh my God, he's a good player, right? But then you'll see the lowlights and you're like, what's going on here with him? It's because of the big play hunting. He's got to just play the position, right? I think sometimes he's a little too focused on being a playmaker. And maybe that had to do last year because of his personnel. And this is why I think the pairing with him and Denzel Boston would be interesting. Because will Denzel Boston be something that opens up the defense and allows Shedeur to kind of attack these progressions a little bit more open? Yeah. But also Denzel Boston is going to be candy for him to look at all the time because he loves to look at the solo side one-on-one and he loves to throw those. So it's like, is he going to keep doing that and ignoring the design of the play in order to take a shot downfield that he's more comfortable with, or is he actually going to work through the design of the play? You know, that's why I think Denzel Boston and him as a pairing is going to be interesting because I could see the appeal for Shedeur. Great 50-50 ball thrower, pretty accurate deep ball thrower, just wanting to just lob balls to Denzel Boston. But if the Browns want to win games and he wants to take this job as the starter long term, he's got to go through the plays. You know, he's got to actually run the plays because that's going to be where the opportunity is to really get going and win games for this football team.
Leaves him late to it, and then he throws this at changeup speed, and the backer can just close and dislodge the ball. Here's the same concept idea, one crosser clearing out space for another to follow. This gets Jerry Jeudy open this time, but again, his eyes rush to progression and he misses the window. When he gets back to it, Jeudy has taken the route north to find the space, but he still waits another beat before releasing, and then overthrows the football. That should have been 6. A lot of young QBs can dig themselves out of a processing hole by having a sniper for an arm. But here, Shedeur struggles too, both in radar control and in velocity. Throwing late and off speed in the NFL is just a disaster waiting to happen. Being able to throw cross-hash with accuracy in the NFL is a necessity, as it's often the only hole in deeper dropping zone defenses. Gage Larvidan gets open with the deep spot route, but Shedeur sails this to the sideline. Here's a nice designed shot play once they reach Cincy territory, but Shedeur is late and offline. It's a heavy play action that looks to be setting up a flood concept, except the deep route fakes the corner before snapping back to the post. The safety bites, and there's a touchdown over the top waiting to happen, but Shedeur waits to confirm, allowing pressure in, leading to an underthrow. And while we like the touch ball as a skill, it can't be overused.
Yeah, now again, some people will say, part of why Shedeur was waiting to see guys open was maybe he didn't trust the offense or he didn't trust Kevin Stefanski, which I don't know if that's really an acceptable excuse. Like, you're kind of, as an NFL player, especially a quarterback, you kind of just have to trust regardless of what the situation is. That's the job, right? To trust what's going on and to run the plays. So I don't know if that's a particularly strong excuse for him. And I know people are hoping that with Todd, there's a better rapport there, that he could trust these things a little bit better, and the offensive line being a little bit healthier gives him that comfort to trust things, which I think, you know, the offensive line part of it could be helpful too. Now, I want to kind of touch on this, right? Because a lot of people will say, you know, one of the things that's going to make him better is that he's going to trust the offense more with Kevin gone, because they don't think that Kevin and Shedeur had a good enough relationship in order for Shedeur to trust him, which I think is an interesting concept. You know what I mean? I will say this, though, like, I think he trusted his coaches at Colorado, and I think he had the same tendency to wait for things to open up before he threw them. And I'm going to be honest, I think that's just kind of a college quarterback transitioning to an NFL team thing, right? Like, a lot of guys who are good at the college level can get away with waiting for guys to get open before anticipating them to get open. The question is, can Shedeur eventually become somebody who can anticipate guys be open? Some things you see about his game give you hope, right? When you see that deep ball to Isaiah Bond and he anticipates the window and the angle that he needs to throw that ball to be able to throw him open in that situation, that gives you hope that this can be a guy who can learn to anticipate different windows. But there's a lot of other tape that you see from Shedeur that don't give you a lot of hope in that respect. So that's the big question, right? Like, he's going to have to. He's not somebody who's going to be able to get away with seeing guys open and being laid, right? He has to be able to anticipate these things. He has to be the kind of quarterback that can trust his offense regardless of what the situation is. Because in order for Shedeur to win as a quarterback in the NFL, it's possible. It's possible for him to be a good quarterback in the NFL. But in order for him to be that quarterback, he has to trust his offense. He has to trust his progressions. He has to go through his progressions. He has to make his life a lot easier on a physical standpoint when it comes to what throws he can make to be successful. He needs to be able to just take what the defense gives him and be okay with being bored and manage a game a little better, right? These are a lot of things, a lot of skills that take a long time to develop. Some guys catch on a little bit faster than others, and I hope Shedeur is of the variety that catches on faster. But this is the very real mountain that he needs to climb to be able to get to the point to where a lot of people want him to be. I don't think Shedeur is just going to be outright terrible. I don't think Shedeur is destined to be great either, though. I think Shedeur is a prospect in the NFL who can be good if he gets better at certain things. And I'm just telling y'all what he needs to get better at. And I'm not the only one saying this, right? Like, there's plenty of people that have broken down this tape that are willing to say the same thing.
Running a true flood concept this time, Harold Fannin gets open as the middle read. But again, there's a wait to see it break, and then the ball is softly floated, giving the corner plenty of time to recover and catch this like a receiver. That ain't what you want. Now, we always aim to lay out the full picture here at Thinking Football, and we can't finish this rookie report without discussing some negatives outside of Shedeur's control. I've gone back and forth on the decision to start Flacco if you wanted to use this season as a dress rehearsal for two young quarterbacks. But when you see how this line treated him, you'll understand Stefanski's decision. This offensive line was simply not competitive to a pro level last season, and consistently allowed quick and disastrous pressures that tunnel visioned a drive into a punt. When consistent pressure is happening around you through the interior gaps, you really have no chance unless you can get the ball out from the snap. Any longer developing concept, and it's just over. When it wasn't the line letting them down, the receivers, and some of these concepts certainly did. They've really found someone in Harold Fannin, but there was little juice from any other pass catcher. Too often, there was no one open when Shedeur looked up, and with a lack of want to progress and anticipate, little options to find. This offense also didn't offer enough checkdown options on deeper play action concepts, which gave neither the line nor Shedeur a fair chance to get out of a failed play. However, not all sacks are created equal, and Shedeur himself contributed to the total by holding on to the ball and missing some open reads. We're going to do a full deep dive into why do sacks happen this offseason to work out what percentage are quarterbacks truly responsible for. So, you best be subscribed for that.
That's a great video from Thinking Football. Make sure you go check them out. I think there's some good there with Shedeur. I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done. I don't know if that work can be done in a time frame that makes sense for the Browns to, have him be the future of this team. You know what I mean? And I don't know if that work ever does get done. Right? So many quarterbacks in the NFL have passed through where you're like, yeah, they could be good if they fix this, that, the third, and they never fix this, that, and the third. It will be interesting to see Shedeur with a better offensive line and better receivers. I wonder what that does, right? Because I could see a world where a better offensive line, better receivers, puts him in a situation to trust the offense more, puts him in a situation to throw with anticipation and the same kind of anticipatory windows that he was throwing with on the run, he does from the pocket. And then he has that touch, that accuracy, and then we start to see things start to blossom into place, and we get really excited about that. I can also see the added talent at wide receiver and the extra time he's going to get from the offensive line could potentially make some bad habits that he already has maybe even worse, right? The big play hunting, right? We talked about that with Denzel Boston. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's a bad thing. The extra time for the offensive line will allow him some flexibility to not necessarily be on time or work in the structured play and big play hunt more, right? Like, we're really going to see what is if that is a fatal flaw in his game or not, or if that's something that just developed out of necessity based on the circumstances last year. And once we get the answer to that, the picture will become a lot clearer about what Shedeur's future is going to be with this football team. But that's my thought. Thought it was a great video from Thinking Football. Make sure you go check them out. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.